Hey everyone, welcome to Six Path Weeb. Thanks for tuning into my channel, your hub for anime twists, fan theories, and all things epic in the Shinobi universe. Today's fanfic scenario: what if Naruko was actually a war game? And only one player knew it? Yeah, we're diving into that wild concept. Strategy, deception, and a hidden player with the power to change everything. Quick disclaimer. The content on this channel is purely for entertainment and discussion. I do not claim ownership of any anime footage featured in my videos. All rights belong to their original creators and copyright holders. Let's dive in. Strap in, because this alternate reality is about to get intense. I found myself standing on water in a place that looked like a sewer. And I mean that quite literally. I was somehow standing on the surface of the water instead of being submerged in it. My surroundings resembled what I'd imagine a sewer to look like: dark, damp, and echoing with silence. Not that I've spent much time in one. I paused to take in my surroundings. The layout resembled a hallway, one clear path ahead or back. One direction disappeared into shadows, while the other was faintly lit. Possibly an exit? Naturally, I moved toward the light. Something about the darkness behind me felt far too ominous. As I took my first step. Memories. Not my own. A village where people dashed across rooftops as if they were streets. Massive stone heads carved into a mountain. Growing up in an orphanage, then a modest apartment. Training at a ninja academy. Graduating, joining a team, going on missions. A snake. An invasion. A mentor figure departing. Learning new skills. Returning with a new leader. A teammate abandoning the village. The chase. A hand to the chest. Darkness. I came back to myself, on my knees, still balanced on the surface of the water. The sewer-like surroundings remained unchanged. Getting back on my feet, I now viewed everything with new understanding. I knew where I was, and I had a strong sense of where that light led. Definitely not a spiritual afterlife. Thankfully, this was a mindscape, not a real sewer. That meant there was still a way out. But escaping would be just the beginning. If these memories were true, then I was now in the body of Naruko Uzumaki, the protagonist of an anime I once watched, set in a world of highly skilled ninja, extraordinary powers, and escalating challenges. A world where strength often determined your freedom. Where sheer determination or talent could elevate someone to unimaginable heights. Now, I'm in the heart of that world. As its lead character. Funny thing is, I was never a huge fan of Naruko. I didn't dislike her, but she wasn't a character I admired either. Loud, impulsive, often unrefined in her decisions. I understood that her flaws were necessary to tell her story, but I always felt she could have been more. Maybe that's why I'm here now, some cosmic twist of fate giving me the chance to prove I could do it differently. Better. Maybe this is karma, giving me a chance to walk the path I once criticized. I'm not treating this like a dream. The clarity of those memories is too precise. No haze, no emotional fog. Just vivid, detailed recollections. So, I'm accepting this new reality for what it is. That also means I won't just follow the original storyline. Striving to become Hokage and building friendships everywhere isn't a bad path, but I can't rely on charisma and hope. I have to forge my own route, shaped by my actual strengths. I'm not here just to survive. I'm here to thrive. That means growing stronger. How? Through training. By using every resource available. I now carry the legacy of the Uzumaki clan, great chakra reserves, resilience, and vitality. I'm also host to a powerful tailed beast, which brings even greater strength and unique traits. I've got access to shadow clones, perfect for accelerated learning. Best of all, I have foreknowledge. I remember what's coming, and I can use that to prepare smarter and faster. There's the village library. Veteran ninjas. Safe training grounds. All tools to support my growth. I may no longer have plot protection, but I don't need it. If Naruko became one of the strongest with her headstrong approach, then I'll aim to go even further, with focus and intention. Time to walk that path. Dash. Goes. I eventually decided I had waited long enough. Even if I could stay in this space indefinitely, I shouldn't waste the opportunity. Who knows when I'll be skilled enough at meditation to visit Kurama again. As I walked toward the source of the light, I thought about what I should say to him. The truth felt like the safest option. Trust matters, especially if we're going to work together one day. Honesty now could lead to partnership later. I reached the end of the hallway and stepped into a vast chamber. At one end was a large gate with a seal on it. The soft light barely reached inside, casting long shadows. I had no doubt Kurama was hidden within them. I moved to a cautious distance and sat down, still on the water's surface. Time passed. Eventually, a deep voice broke the silence. Not loud, but powerful. "So, my guest finally chooses to appear," Kurama said. "You're not who I expected." That made sense. I didn't look like Naruko here. My appearance matched who I was before coming here, a young African-American woman in her early 20s, dressed in clothing unfamiliar to this world. Over time, I might start to see this new body as mine. Or maybe not. I've never been in a situation like this. "Hello, Kurama." I greeted him calmly. "How do you know that name?" he asked, voice louder now. He stepped forward. The first thing I saw were glowing red eyes. Then the rest of him came into view, a massive, reddish-orange fox with 9 tails flowing behind him. His front paws resembled human hands, and he stood tall enough to dwarf any human. As his gaze bore down on me, a heavy pressure filled the space. Like gravity intensifying. It took effort to remain steady, even while sitting. "I'm not Naruko," I began. "I'm someone from another world who somehow ended up here. In my world, we could view alternate realities, this one included." He paused thoughtfully. "Another world. I'm not surprised. My father's mother came from somewhere else too. But for someone like you to appear before me, in my container's body. Intriguing." He wasn't speaking to me directly anymore. More like thinking aloud. I stayed silent until his attention returned to me. "What exactly have you seen of this world? And why are you here?" "Quite a bit," I replied. So I shared what I remembered, the Akatsuki, the Fourth Great Ninja War, the masked figures behind the scenes, and even ancient beings like Kaguya. I admitted that I didn't know how I got here, but I had no intention of giving up on this life. "I've already started planning how to handle what's coming. But I'd like your partnership. Not just for power, though I won't deny that's part of it," I added honestly. "More than that, I need someone I can speak openly with. Someone who knows what I am, what I've seen. I can't tell Naruko's friends, they'd never understand, and it might put everyone at risk." Kurama watched me silently. "So what do you say?" I asked gently. "Let's move forward together. Not as jailer and prisoner, but as partners." He stared, unblinking. "Your story is remarkable. I'll need time to consider." Turning, he walked back into the shadows. "I'll summon you when I have decided." I remained seated, thoughtful. It wasn't a rejection, and that was more than I could have asked for. Back to planning. Nothing more to do down here for now. I wonder what led to me being here. I just hope my loved ones are okay back home. Goes. Now, standing before the Hokage's desk, I found myself reflecting on the past 6 weeks. As expected, I woke up in a hospital bed. The medical team ran final checks and told me I'd be discharged the next day. Before I left, I visited the other Genin who had gone on the mission with me. They were part of Naruko's circle, so maintaining appearances was important. Maybe, in time, I'd truly become friends with them. It was during those visits that Jiraiya found me. He took me up to the roof to talk. He asked how I was holding up after what happened with Sasuke and informed me about a training journey we'd embark on soon, just over a month away. He kept sending concerned glances my way. Likely confused by how quiet I was compared to the cheerful girl he remembered. But since he didn't ask directly, I didn't explain. Looking back, this timing was a blessing. If I had been born as Naruko and lived through the hardships from the start, things would have been far more difficult. Experiencing rejection as a child, being misunderstood, having to act like a typical orphan while carrying the memories of another life, it would have been unbearable. And if I had arrived earlier in her timeline, I would have needed a major excuse to explain any personality shift. But now? The aftermath of a difficult mission and betrayal gave me a perfect reason to act differently. To grow. To study. To train with purpose. No one would question it. They'd see a determined young ninja, focused on becoming stronger to protect her village and bring back a dear friend. And this training trip with Jiraiya? It's the perfect chance to reset. I'll be away from people who knew the old Naruko. I can evolve without constant comparisons. The only one who might notice is Jiraiya, but he barely knew me before now. As long as my changes are gradual, it'll be fine. Yes, this is a good time to be me. And I'm going to make the most of it. Once the Toad Sage left me on my own, I began to carry out the plan I had carefully put together while reflecting in my mindscape. Forming the proper hand seal, I performed my first jutsu in this world, the shadow clone technique. It was quite a sight seeing so many versions of myself standing around. So much orange. But I adjusted quickly and stayed focused on the goal. The clones were aware of the plan, but since I had created so many, it was up to me to divide them into proper groups. I assigned 5 to head to the library and study chakra theory, its practical applications, anatomy, physiology, and history. I limited the number to 5 to avoid overwhelming my mind with too much information at once when they dispersed. For safety, they transformed into different people before heading out. Another 30 clones were sent to Training Ground 3 to work on chakra control. Their focus would be combining water walking and leaf concentration exercises to maximize their efficiency. I tasked one final clone with investigating where Lee obtained his training weights and purchasing a similar set for me. With the groups in motion, the group of 30 accompanied me to the training grounds while the others went their separate ways. By the time I finished my warm-up, the clone sent to purchase the weights returned. I expected something like what I remembered from the original series but was pleasantly surprised. The set included a belt with 2 chakra seals attached to it, designed to be worn around the midsection. According to the instructions, sending a small pulse of chakra into one of the seals would increase the weight on the entire body by 1 level. Using the other seal would release the added weight. Each level added about 15 kilograms, and the highest setting added up to 150 kilograms. I found the concept interesting, though I knew it would be a challenge. The instructions also noted that training without relying on chakra would yield the best results, helping build a strong physical foundation and making future enhancement techniques more effective. I strapped on the belt and began my workout, sprints until I was exhausted, followed by variations of push-ups, sit-ups, squats, lunges, and planks. I pushed my Uzumaki stamina to its limits. By the end, I could definitely feel the full effect of those extra 15 kilograms. It was a tough start, but a rewarding one. Throughout the day, I periodically created new sets of 30 clones as the previous ones ran out of chakra and dispersed. The clones studying at the library also finished in the afternoon, once it had closed. Before dispersing, they kindly came to inform me and gave me time to prepare for receiving their memories. The experience of receiving their knowledge was unusual but not unpleasant. It felt natural, like I suddenly understood new things without spending time reading or researching. Shadow clones really are an incredible technique. Except for the weekends when I rested, my time before leaving followed a consistent routine. Wake up. Eat breakfast. Send 5 clones to the library. 30 to work on chakra control. Spend the morning improving accuracy with kunai and shuriken, followed by physical training. Have lunch. Practice taijutsu based on academy techniques and memories. Study ninjutsu and absorb knowledge from the library clones. Dinner. Watch television and relax. End the day meditating while lying in bed. Weekends were used to maintain appearances and spend time with the people Naruko was friendly with. I won't lie, it was challenging. Going from being a civilian in 21st century America to a young ninja in training was a huge shift. At times, staying motivated was a real struggle, especially with the physical training. Back on Earth, I had never needed to push myself this hard. But I had to now. Developing a strong, capable body and mastering taijutsu were essential steps toward my goal of becoming elite by the time any major events occurred. The thought of what could happen if I wasn't prepared served as powerful motivation. So, I kept pushing forward, and it showed in the results. I advanced to level 4 with the training weights. My accuracy with kunai and shuriken improved noticeably. Chakra control increased dramatically, which also enhanced my ability with the Rasengan, substitution jutsu, and body flicker technique, my main areas of focus. I absorbed all the chakra theory available in the library and practiced advanced control exercises that would be useful later on. I also studied shinobi tactics, botany, basic poisons, etiquette, anything that might be useful in the future. That said, I noticed a lack of materials on sealing techniques. It made sense. Seals are complex and dangerous in the wrong hands, so access is probably restricted. Still, it had been a productive month. As its exterior suggests, the Hokage's office is circular, built from earth tone materials, with large windows opposite the entrance providing a sweeping view of the village. Aside from a few portraits on the wall, the space is simple. A modest desk stands before the windows, similar to one you might find in a classroom back home. Stacks of books and paperwork rest atop it. Overall, it's smaller and more reserved than I would expect from the workplace of a powerful leader. Standing behind and to the left of the desk is Shizune. With dark hair, matching eyes, and a calm, professional demeanor, she wears her usual navy blue kimono trimmed in white, cinched with a white obi. She's graceful and composed. The only unusual part of her appearance is the small pig she carries, which, thankfully, doesn't smell from this distance. Off to the side, leaning casually against the wall, stands Jiraiya, my soon-to-be sole companion aside from Kurama. He wears his usual green and red outfit, tall and broad-shouldered with striking white hair and red facial markings. I always wondered about those. Do they come naturally, like the Inuzuka clans? And what happens to white hair with age? So many mysteries. Then there's the person in charge, Lady Tsunade. A legendary figure, the most skilled medical ninja alive, and the last of her clan. When I first saw her character in the anime, I appreciated her presence in the cast. Strong, compassionate, and deeply respected, she eventually became one of Naruko's most cherished mentors. Though her path to leadership had its rough patches, the circumstances made it clear she was the best choice at the time. Most in Minato's and Kakashi's generation lacked the strength, support, or temperament to lead. That left the loyal Sannin. Jiraiya, ever the tactician, supported Tsunade's candidacy, and it ended up being a wise decision. With him maintaining the intelligence network and Tsunade enhancing the village's medical system, it turned into a great balance. Any internal challenges they faced never seemed to impact the village's stability. Currently, Tsunade sits in the only chair in the room, behind the desk. With fair skin, blonde hair, and warm brown eyes, the diamond-shaped seal on her forehead stands out. She wears her traditional green haori over a gray blouse. Despite her serious role, she still carries a light-hearted presence that adds warmth to the room. Besides the Anbu stationed discreetly around, it's just the four of us here for the departure: myself, Tsunade, Shizune, and Jiraiya. I had already let Naruko's friends know I'd be leaving soon, though I didn't specify when. No need for dramatic farewells. Just this one stop before the training truly begins. The village is going to feel different without you around, Jiraiya said, a small smile tugging at his lips. Finally get to enjoy some peace and quiet. Very funny, Granny, I said, rolling my eyes at the joke. Just don't let the budget disappear while I'm away. Shizune, please keep an eye on her. Of course, Naruko. Stay safe, Shizune replied with a smile, clearly amused. Both of us ignored the exasperated look on Tsunade's face. I'll do my best. And thank you for everything. You've really helped me a lot. I gave her a cheerful thumbs up. While I learned plenty from the library, there were specific techniques I couldn't access on my own, like advanced chakra control methods used by medical ninja and healing techniques, known as Iryojutsu. Normally, these are only taught to those pursuing a medical path, like Sakura. But with some encouragement and a bit of help from inside connections, Tsunade pulled some strings for me. I was mostly interested in improving my chakra control, but knowing how to heal myself and others is always valuable. You're welcome, Naruko, Tsunade said warmly. I'm glad I could support your training. I sensed the amusement from Jiraiya and noticed Tsunade trying to hide her mild irritation. Just get going already. That's the last special favor you're getting from me, she muttered with her arms crossed. Troublesome, energetic blondes. You're blonde too, I said with a soft smile. Really, thank you. I mean it. I hoped she could see how sincere I was through my expression. One thing Naruko always had was a very expressive face. Her gaze softened slightly. I know. Just promise me you'll return safe. Holding her gaze, I nodded. I had a feeling I knew who she might be thinking of. Jiraiya stepped beside me, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. I'll watch over her, my lady, he promised gently. You'd better, Tsunade replied. Jiraiya chuckled and gave Shizune a parting gesture similar to my own. We'll be back before you know it. Let's go, Naruko. With a final wave goodbye, we departed, through the window, of course. My first time doing that. It was much faster than taking the stairs. We traveled across the rooftops and landed at the village gates to check out. It didn't take long, likely because of Jiraiya's presence, and soon we were on our way. My journey toward greatness had finally begun. 2 months into the journey. Growing up, I was always a quiet person, at least in public. At home, I could be more expressive, surrounded by people I trusted. That safe space let me reveal the more sarcastic and playful side of myself. But once I stepped outside, especially at school, I transformed into the polite and reserved student. I did have friends and we shared our share of jokes, but when it came to strangers or large groups, I often clammed up. Thinking back, my introversion had a kind of pattern. As a young child, I was energetic, even bubbly. Then came puberty, with all its awkwardness, and I became more withdrawn. But once I made it through that stage, I began opening up again, though I still deeply valued my alone time. These thoughts came to mind during my cool-down stretches, a daily habit ever since leaving the village. Now, I travel with Jiraiya and Kurama. Kurama, while supportive, usually keeps quiet unless I initiate a conversation. That leaves Jiraiya, who fills most silences with stories, from his youth, his training tips, or even his books. As someone who craves personal connection even while appreciating solitude, I found comfort in his company. After departing from the village, Jiraiya brought me to a small town where we camped just outside the borders. Days were spent training, nights were spent under the stars in our tents. Our meals came from what we hunted, supplemented by purchases from the local markets. It was simple living, but not unpleasant. Our routine was strict: wake early, engage in physical conditioning, followed by practice with throwing tools until midday. Afterward, I'd remove my weights and spar with Jiraiya. Currently, we focus on taijutsu, but I plan to expand our sessions soon. Topics for our theoretical lessons vary. Lately, we've focused on stealth and tracking techniques. Meanwhile, my shadow clones tackle chakra control and explore my elemental affinities, wind and water. Wind is my natural affinity, and I'm developing water techniques for specific strategic purposes. I'm also refining my main jutsu, Rasengan, substitution, and the body flicker. Using the advantage of an outsider's mindset, I intend to push these techniques beyond their usual limits. Right now, I can form a Rasengan with one hand in under 2 seconds. It's a major improvement, though my goal is under 1 second. The next step will be elemental integration. As for substitution, I've made significant progress, no hand seals needed, and the activation takes just a fraction of a second. With more practice, I've increased my range. My clones make excellent swap targets thanks to their identical chakra signatures and body shape. I can currently switch with one nearly 20 meters away. With better control and experience, I'm confident the technique will grow even more effective. The body flicker is still a work in progress, but I have some creative ideas, like extending its range, increasing its activation speed, or incorporating it into close quarters combat maneuvers. Chakra sensing, though, remains a curious experience. It feels like using a sense I wasn't born with, like learning to interpret colors as someone who's only ever seen in black and white. To help visualize it, I likened it to sonar. I emit a pulse of chakra, and when it rebounds off another presence, I get a vague sense of location and distance. It's something I've been practicing in my spare time, mainly in the evenings. I started by sending out small chakra pulses, just like dispersing genjutsu, and gradually refined my awareness. I trained by sending clones away, then trying to sense their return. I started by detecting them at 11 meters. A month later, I could sense them at 20. The accuracy is still low, but I'm optimistic. My clones are helping me dedicate consistent focus to this area. Still, I have to admit, I envy Karen's ability. Her chakra chains are something I can't replicate. She really lucked out in the genetics department. One evening, sitting by my tent with my eyes closed, I sensed a familiar presence about 20 meters out. It wasn't one of my clones. I recognized the chakra and the clunky footsteps. It was Jiraiya. When he arrived at our clearing, I stood up to greet him. "Back already?" "That was quicker than I expected," I said with a playful smirk. He didn't have much to say, Jiraiya replied casually. "Only took a few minutes." "Yeah, right. That definitely didn't explain why he was gone for 4 hours. There was a little situation at the hot springs that needed my attention," he added with a chuckle. I rolled my eyes. "Did you learn anything useful from your informant?" "Nothing too serious. Just some rumors floating around." Then he laid out a scroll and released its contents, a few sets of clothes, sandals, and a new belt. Before I left the village, my last checkup said I was 146 centimeters tall and weighed about 40 kilograms. Since we began traveling, I'd grown taller and stronger, so my old orange tracksuits had become tighter and shorter. Great for training, not so much for public appearances. Since I had no civilian clothes, I asked Jiraiya to pick some up while I trained. He came through, a couple of black trousers, plain white shirts, a lightweight black jacket, and matching sandals. Simple and effective. The belt, however, had a special purpose. I had reached level 7 in my training weights, 7 out of 10. But my gear didn't allow for manual upgrades like Lee's. Mine used sealing formulas, complicated, but effective. So, I asked Jiraiya to create a new belt with an adjustable seal for limitless potential. I sealed everything into my storage scroll and gave him a grateful nod. "Thanks, Jiraiya." "No problem, kid." He smiled, eyes closed. "By the way, when did you start calling me by name? Not that I miss the old nickname." I glanced up at the trees, thinking it over. "When I met you, I wasn't impressed. You seemed strange, knocked out my teacher, threw me into a trench instead of properly teaching me. And you even borrowed money when I knew you didn't need it. Calling you by that nickname was my way of pushing back. But then you taught me the Rasengan. That jutsu became a turning point for me. It kept me in battles I wouldn't have survived otherwise. Using it against Sasuke, even though I didn't win, proved its worth. So, calling you by your name is my way of showing respect. And thank you for everything you've taught me. His expression shifted slowly, from seriousness to a real, heartfelt smile. You're welcome, Naruko. He gently placed a hand on my shoulder. So, still interested in learning Fuinjutsu? Of course. I've just been waiting for you to start. Alright then. Let's begin. 7.5 months into the journey. My mindscape is no longer a sewer. Far from it. I now stand in a peaceful forest clearing, surrounded by trees and healthy greenery. On one edge of the forest is a massive cave entrance, tall enough to fit a giant. I can't even see the end of it, it stretches back into the shadows. That's Kurama's domain, by the way. When we first started changing my mental space, I assumed I could simply imagine a new landscape and it would appear. Not so. We had to build this place piece by piece, through countless nights of effort. It's not perfect, we copied the same tree and shrub design over and over, and the sky is just blank white. No sun, no clouds. It grows dim to reflect nighttime, but you can still see everything somehow. It works for now. I've got my clearing, and Kurama has his forest and cave. The seal lies at the center of the clearing. It keeps Kurama on his side and me on mine. Some might call it a prison, but honestly, it's better than what was here before. Kurama sat nearby, looking amused. You're changing. It's an interesting transformation. Never seen someone go through self-discovery before? I laughed lightly. No. My past hosts didn't have your unique circumstances. Well, it's weird, but not bad, I said, glancing down at myself. Lately, even my mental image was changing. I appeared slightly distorted, like an old photo losing sharpness. I chalked it up to fully adapting to this body and accepting it as mine. With all my training, I've become deeply familiar with it. My body may still be short and youthful, but it holds more strength than my adult form ever did. That's not the only thing. Your strength is growing daily, Kurama remarked, showing a toothy grin. Combine that with my power, and you'll be truly remarkable. I'm counting on it. What do you think of the arrow step? Name aside, it has no real impact. Complete the elemental Rasengan first. That might be worth my attention. It's not meant to be powerful on its own. It supports everything else. And I'll get back to the Rasengan variation soon. This technique might have real potential. Humans and your odd ideas. Still, I suppose walking on air could be useful, he grumbled. We can't all be giant, mystical beings, I said with a smile. Sometimes subtle techniques make all the difference. And this one took forever to figure out. Time that could have been used better, Kurama teased. I just shook my head with a grin. I rolled my eyes slightly. You'd think someone who had first-hand experience with a sealing technique might better appreciate the art of chakra control. Not that I'm claiming my new ability is on par with the legendary Fuinjutsu techniques of old. The arrow step was essentially the next stage in chakra control training. First, you learn to walk on solid surfaces. Then, you advance to water. The final frontier? Air. That's where I am now. I might have taken a few creative liberties, compressing atmospheric air into concentrated chakra platforms to step on, but it works. Once I've mastered it in battle, I'll have an entirely new level of mobility. Instead of being stuck mid-air or forced to take a hit, I'll be able to pivot and shift around it. Right now, I practice by sprinting through the trees, occasionally hopping from one invisible air platform to the next instead of branches. It takes sharp concentration, not exactly something you do on autopilot. And Kurama, my ever-watchful companion, seems unimpressed. Whatever, I muttered. I came to talk about the Sage of the Six Paths and his idea of Ninshu. That definitely caught Kurama's attention. He raised his head and narrowed his eyes. Why? You humans already have ninjutsu. Why would you care about Ninshu? True, but hear me out. From what I remember, Ninshu was about connecting people. Helping them understand one another. I've been thinking, maybe it has something to do with sensing emotions. Kind of like your ability to detect negative feelings, but broader. More balanced. Kurama's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. You're not wrong. That's an interesting perspective. But you'll eventually gain that ability once we fully synchronize. I know. But that won't happen for a while, and even then, your ability focuses only on negativity. There's value in understanding a wider range of emotions, especially in a world filled with secrets and uncertainty. That's why I want to learn more about Ninshu. He nodded slightly. Fair enough. I can tell you what I know. My father created Ninshu to help people connect spiritually, to encourage peace. It let people communicate their true feelings without words and support each other. It worked for a time. Until misunderstandings and fear changed things. Eventually, people combined spiritual and physical energy and created ninjutsu, turning it into a tool for conflict. Spiritual energy. So this would be a yin release technique? I asked. Yes. You'll need to separate your spiritual energy and focus your control to properly tap into it. Got it. More meditation, more shadow clones, and maybe revisit that scroll Lady Tsunade gave me. Kurama's gaze shifted again. We'll get to that later. I want to revisit something from our last conversation. You said your people didn't have chakra. How did they explore the seas? Even space? And how did they support so many people? Well, they developed technology. 1 year into the journey, I launched myself away from my sparring partner, using our interlocked arms as a springboard. As I landed a dozen meters away, I channeled chakra into a burst of air that rocketed toward him. He dodged to the side and returned fire, actual fire. I countered with a burst of water, creating a curtain of steam. From within it, several clones appeared, with most transforming into kunai that dropped into my hands. One clone stayed behind as a decoy while 3 followed me into the air, leaping with arrow step. He was good at hiding his presence, but in this close quarters battle, I already had a feel for his chakra. When it split, I knew something was up. 2 hands suddenly emerged from beneath my clone, a trap. But before they could take hold, a concentrated burst of air scattered them. I landed lightly on my air platform and watched as the arms dissolved into mud. A mud clone. Sensing his new position, I threw the kunai now coated in wind chakra. My clones charged in for close combat, with me following right behind. Out of the thinning steam, I spotted him, calm, armed, and ready. He blocked and countered expertly, but my clones managed a few hits. Even the ones who tried ambushing from his blind spots. Eventually, though, he overcame them all. Seizing the opening, I surged forward and launched a roundhouse kick. He blocked it, but the impact sent him skidding. I flipped into the air, using another arrow step to propel myself downward, delivering a punch that connected and sent him flying. No time to waste, I released another water bullet, this one superheated. With no time to dodge, he used a substitution technique. A log took the hit, releasing steam as it splintered. Smart move. I scanned the clearing with chakra pulses. Sensing movement to my left, I turned, just in time to see him charging, a tag glowing on his hand. A chakra seal. If it hit, it would disrupt my flow. I quickly unleashed a burst of wind chakra that exploded outward, slowing his charge, and then twisted the wind into a miniature tornado to lift myself. Dirt and leaves swirled around him, giving me cover as I launched air bullets. He dodged nimbly, sliding across the ground like it was ice. Then he formed a hand sign. Recognizing the tiger seal, I hurled my twister at him and launched myself away using chakra. Moments later, a fire and wind explosion erupted behind me. I landed on a platform I formed midair. After the storm died down, I descended with controlled arrow steps. Jiraiya stood in the middle of a scorched area. Before he could speak, I raised a brow. Okay, 1, that's a tie. 2, what was that? Sorry, he replied, though he didn't sound all that sorry. I matched your wind with fire instinctively. You have to admit, it looked impressive. It was impressive. Until you remember I was standing in the middle of it. He chuckled sheepishly. I can just imagine what Lady Tsunade would do if anything happened to you. She'd probably scold you so hard you'd volunteer to do paperwork for a week. Let's not test that theory. Let's head back. Back at camp, we ate and sat down to review the spar. You've improved significantly. That water bullet variation is nearly ready for real missions. Your reactions were sharp, and your use of wind chakra is evolving nicely. That last technique wasn't even a formal jutsu, you crafted it on the spot. You're ready. I'll ask Tsunade to start sending missions our way. Finally. I grinned, pumping my fist. No more D-rank tasks out here. And remember, I won't always be around. I know. I'm ready to see how I stack up, and I need the money, too. You mean my money? Details. You're rich anyway. I want to buy armor. New clothes. Maybe even move out of that apartment when we get back. Armor? I've got my old gear, but it won't fit you. You're taller than average for your age, but I was fully grown when mine was made. That's fine. I want my own anyway. I know someone who can help with that. Perfect. Now if we're done, it's Friday afternoon, meaning break time. Let's go into town. To the hot springs we go. Jiraiya's serious mode vanished. At the hot springs. In this wild world full of eccentric people and even stranger hair colors, the hot springs were a sanctuary. As a fast-healing Uzumaki and Jinchuriki, I didn't come here for recovery, just peace. The warmth, the minerals. It soothed me. I leaned back, letting the water relax my muscles while using my newly developed yin release, empathy. First, I learned to read my own emotions. Then others. Each emotion had its own subtle color, a unique feeling signature. I practiced identifying complex emotions and shifts in mood. I moved on from individuals to groups. The hot springs were a great place to test this. On the other side, where the women were relaxing, I sensed curiosity, contentment, and a hint of envy, probably harmless comparisons. On this side, the emotions were mellow. Except Jiraiya, who was hiding under a jutsu near the partition wall. Typical. Focusing inward, I let the noise fade. Soon, I would be tested in real missions. I had prepared for so long, training my body, mastering jutsus, refining my taijutsu, and building my combat style around precision and power. Still, I wondered. Would I be ready for what came next? You're not ready, Kurama said quietly. But I believe you'll adapt. You always have. You've faced challenges most couldn't imagine, and yet here you are, stronger for it. You may hesitate, you may stumble, but you'll stand up again. That's who you are. I sat upright in the water, feeling the warmth settle into my skin and Kurama's words settle into my heart. Thank you, Kurama. Humph. Someone had to say it. I will continue moving forward. Not because I have to. But because I choose to. 1 year into the journey. I was right. My first assignment involved dealing with a group of traveling troublemakers. The mission didn't come directly from the Hokage. Instead, the local town council offered it to us when we arrived to help. They were relieved to hand the task over, and once I heard the details, it made sense why. Our targets were a small, roaming band who moved through the region, taking supplies and leaving before anyone could stop them. They avoided staying in one place, making them hard to track, and they hadn't caused any serious harm, just enough to be a consistent nuisance. Because they weren't a high-level threat, no village had seen the value in sending shinobi. But that changed when it was discovered they had 2 rogue ninja among them, likely Chunin level, judging by the descriptions. That's where we came in. As traveling ninjas, we were experienced and capable, and we charged far less than what a full village might ask. A good deal for everyone involved. I gained valuable experience and income, and they got help. The mission's terms were simple: capture the non-ninja members for the local authorities to deal with, and neutralize the rogue shinobi, who posed a more serious threat. I was already in my usual mission attire, a variation of what Kakashi-sensei wears, but in black and without the vest or mask. I checked my gear and storage scrolls, making sure I had enough ninja wire, then headed out. The town disappeared behind me as I made my way toward where the group had last been seen. I could sense Master Jiraiya following about a kilometer behind. As always, he was letting me take the lead to grow through experience. Moving through the trees quickly, I arrived at a clearing where there had been recent activity. Ashes from an old fire, footprints, and other small signs confirmed that they had been here. Fortunately, they hadn't done a very good job covering their tracks. Following the trail on foot, I traveled throughout the day without stopping. It was a few hours later that I sensed something, 2 small chakra signatures among many weaker ones. Compared to Jiraiya or me, they were dim, but among the others, they stood out clearly. As I approached, I started moving through the trees again to stay hidden. About 70 meters away, I saw them, a camp, some tents, and a fire with food roasting. I counted 19 people total. This was the full group. Finding a hidden vantage point, I used a camouflage technique and settled down with some dry rations. Since I planned to take a stealthy approach, I decided nightfall would give me the best advantage. Most groups like this didn't expect trouble at night, so their guard would be lowered. It was just past midnight when I made my move. After checking to ensure most of the camp was asleep, I approached silently. The person standing guard on the north side was one of the rogue ninja, and one of the few still awake. I had to admit, he was focused. He took his guard duty seriously, showing no signs of distraction or boredom. It was a commendable effort, but I had a job to do. I waited for him to turn during one of his scans. When the moment came, I threw a kunai and quickly moved in. The tool struck as planned, and I caught him before he could make a sound, quietly moving him out of sight. A quick check of the camp confirmed everything was still calm. There was one more ninja left. I already knew which tent he was in. Moving carefully through the camp, I reached the tent. No extra traps or protective seals were present, which made it easier to enter. Inside, I saw the ninja asleep. His headband was scratched the same way as the others, clearly a deserter. I hesitated for just a moment, then acted swiftly and efficiently. With both rogue shinobi handled, and no one left to sense chakra use, I created 5 clones. They spread out through the camp to disable the remaining guards and secure the others. They moved with care, making sure no unnecessary harm was done. Once everyone was safely subdued, the clones gathered useful supplies and stored them away. I retrieved the other ninja's body and brought it to the center of the camp alongside the first. Using a fire release technique, I respectfully disposed of the remains. When only ash was left, I created more clones to carry the bandits, and we returned to the town. From the first move to departure, everything had been completed in under 30 minutes. A swift and successful mission. You did well, Jiraiya told me during the debrief. We met back at our lodging. After running through the night to return by dawn, both of us were exhausted. Still, we wanted to finish our conversation before resting. You tracked them, observed them, planned your timing, and carried out the task with skill, he said. And you used very little chakra up until the clones. Smart. My only advice would be to take out all the guards first next time. Even though you prioritize the ninja, future missions may not be so predictable. Understood? Yes, I'll remember that, I said. Good. That was the only suggestion. Now. He looked more serious. How are you feeling after your first real confrontation? I hesitated. Honestly, I feel a mix of emotions. It was both easier and harder than I expected. But I'm thankful the rest of the group could be captured safely. They weren't trained fighters. Jiraiya nodded. Naruko. In our world, things are complicated. You'll encounter moments like this, and the feelings don't always go away. What helps is finding a reason for doing what we do, whether it's duty, protecting others, or something deeply personal. Find that reason. Let it guide you, and it will help you move forward. I was surprised by how thoughtful his words were. I couldn't quite respond, but I gave a firm nod. One more thing, he said. This mission was a starting point. I'll be working with Tsunade to find you an A-ranked target, a missing nin. That will be your next real test. I'm ready, I said, confidently. Until then, we'll stick to our training. For now, get some rest. We'll stay here for another week. He patted my back and went to clean up before bed. His advice stayed with me for the rest of the week. That week was peaceful. We returned to our campsite in the forest and resumed our normal routine, training in the morning, sparring with Jiraiya, and meditation in the evenings. The meditations helped me sort through everything I had experienced and reminded me of my goals. As the weekend arrived, I decided it was time to focus on the bigger picture, growth, both emotionally and spiritually. While the physical training was demanding, so was the inner journey. I continued to reflect and grow, knowing that every step on this journey was shaping me into the shinobi I wanted to become. Once I face the Akatsuki, I'll be ready, not just as a fighter, but as someone with the heart and strength to protect others. Whatever challenges lie ahead, I'll face them with resolve. Because I'm Naruko Uzumaki, and I have a promise to keep. One might think I don't owe anything to Hinata, especially since we never officially spoke about her feelings or made any promises. But honestly, I'd feel awful if I ignored the way she feels. Having some fun on the road is one thing, but going back and pretending like nothing happened, especially if it might hurt her, is something I'm just not okay with. I can't pretend I don't know about her crush. That would make me feel irresponsible and selfish. We need to talk and clear the air. And who knows? Maybe we can start over, actually become real friends. Maybe more, but I'm not counting on anything. Just honesty. Feeling someone shift beside me reminded me that my transformation jutsu needed attention. It's always hard to maintain it while being busy, and nearly impossible while asleep. Still, I made sure to reapply it. Speaking of jutsu, I really appreciate the creator of the one I used. It has definitely made traveling easier and safer. Some jutsu are just smart innovations that solve real-world problems. Turning toward my companion, I gently placed a kiss on her forehead. Good morning, Yua. Morning to you too, Naruko, she said with a bright smile. How are you feeling today? I asked. Wonderful. Yesterday was fun. You're very thoughtful, you know that? She teased with a chuckle. Just checking in on a friend. It's important to care, I responded playfully. I know, and I appreciate that. You're really easy to talk to, Naruko. I try, I said with a wink. So, what's on your schedule today? I need to open the shop soon, probably in an hour or so, she replied, glancing at the early morning sun. Right, I remember you mentioning that. Mind if I stick around and look through your latest designs? I'd love that. But if you're going to browse, you've got to buy something, she said, smiling. I'll do you one better, I offered. I'd like to request a custom piece. A commission. Really? Her interest sparked immediately as she leaned up. You'd trust me with a commission already? Absolutely. The kimono you wore yesterday was amazing. Your skill really stood out. Thank you, she said proudly. Designing is my passion. What are you looking for? I want a cloak. Mostly black with a touch of red. Knee length, practical but stylish. I can sketch it for you later. That idea was inspired by a version of my old outfit. I always liked the flow and symbolism of cloaks. It's not about fashion, but feeling prepared and ready. That sounds doable, she said, nodding. I knew I could count on you. Don't get ahead of yourself, she replied, rolling her eyes good-naturedly. It'll take a few days, maybe longer if you want more than one. That's fine. I'd love a few versions, some for travel, some casual. I'll come back when they're ready. Deal. After chatting a bit more about designs and fabrics, I got ready to leave. I had a lot ahead of me, but good friends like you made it feel worthwhile. 1 year, 6 months into the journey. Flying with my own chakra is one of the greatest feelings. It's fast, convenient, and gives me a unique view of the world. I use aerostepping, creating platforms with chakra to move through the air. It's efficient and lets me use my hands freely, especially for my binoculars. I've been tracking a rogue shinobi named Shiroto, who had gone missing from Iwa. He was known for earth and fire release techniques. Jiraiya had given me this as a test, to assess not just my skills but my judgment. After days of careful observation from above, I made my move. I launched a group of kunai surrounding his position, each tagged with a powerful chakra-based seal. As expected, he was caught off guard. He attempted to disguise himself using a genjutsu and minimal movement, but my chakra senses picked it up. Dispelling the illusion, I confronted him. His defense had been strong, some form of body reinforcement. Earth style, probably. Still, it had clearly taken a toll. Despite the damage, he prepared to fight, and I accepted the challenge. We exchanged blows, but his injury slowed him down. I stayed focused and precise, using taijutsu and ninjutsu together to outmaneuver him. Finally, I used a well-timed wind technique to push him back and follow up with a clean combination, disabling him effectively. The fight ended quickly and decisively. I didn't need to go overboard, and I didn't. My goal was to complete the mission, not show off. After turning in the bounty, I met back up with Jiraiya. He seemed distant, like something was weighing on his mind. Eventually, around the campfire, he opened up. Naruko, he said, serious now, you've grown a lot. I think you're ready to hear something important, something about your past. I sat up, paying full attention. It's about your parents. Your mother was Kushina Uzumaki, and your father was Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. I felt my breath catch. They loved you very much. Minato was my student, and one of the finest shinobi I ever knew. When you were born, there was an incident involving the 9 tails, and both your parents made the ultimate sacrifice to protect you in the village. He paused, regret in his eyes. I was supposed to look after you. Minato asked me to be like a father to you if anything ever happened. But I failed you, Naruko. I let my responsibilities pull me away. I convinced myself it was safer for you, but deep down, I was avoiding the pain. And I regret that more than anything. He looked into my eyes, voice steady but gentle. I understand if you're upset. But I want to do better, from now on. I was quiet for a while, letting it all sink in. The weight of my legacy, their love, and Jiraiya's words. I didn't have to say much. Just knowing the truth. It meant the world. I'm going to stop you right there, I said gently, lowering my hand. There's really no need to ask for forgiveness, Jiraiya. I've been doing a lot of thinking, about the past, about the future I want, and things have shifted for me. My goals aren't quite the same as they used to be, and the way I approach challenges has definitely changed. I'm not the same person I was. So please, don't worry, I don't hold anything against you for leaving all those years ago. You've been a good mentor and a loyal friend, and that's something I deeply appreciate. Maybe you're not exactly a father figure, but that doesn't mean we can't still be like family. So stop stressing about things that don't matter anymore, it's just going to give you more gray hairs. Still. He trailed off, then caught my look and dropped the subject with a soft chuckle. Thank you. You've really grown, Naruko. I know, I said with a small smile. At 23 mentally, I would have been disappointed if I hadn't shown at least some growth. And to be honest, finding out that the fourth was my father wasn't all that shocking. I had my suspicions once I connected the dots. It was figuring out who my mother was that took more effort. Thank you for being honest with me, Jiraiya. No need to thank me. You had a right to know, and once I felt you were ready, there was no reason to keep it from you anymore. Like I said, I knew both of your parents. If you'd like, I can tell you more about what they were like outside of their roles as ninja. I nodded. I'd like that sometime. Once Jiraiya had shared what was on his mind, he seemed to relax a little, even regaining his appetite. I truly hoped he understood how much his presence and support meant to me. Expressing emotions wasn't exactly my specialty, but I tried. After all the time we'd spent traveling, training, and talking, Jiraiya had become more than a teacher, he was someone I saw as family. There were a few things I hoped my presence in this world could help shift for the better. Helping him find peace and maybe even love, hopefully with Lady Tsunade, was something I really wished for him. He deserved happiness too. Kurama's recent comment came to mind, and I decided to speak up again. Hey, I'm planning to start training with the Nine Tails chakra soon, I said casually. You've finally made your decision? He asked. I remember you saying you wanted to be fully prepared before trying anything with that power. What do you need from me? He had understood when I told him I wanted to train my body and mind first to stay in control. He hadn't pushed the subject since then. I was hoping you could give me access to the key for the seal. I've looked it over, it seems like there are built-in limits to how much chakra I can use. I could try adjusting them myself, but I figured there's probably a safer way to handle it. There is a key, he said thoughtfully, but do you really need to release the full thing? My original plan was to loosen the seal gradually when you started your training. I can manage it, I said confidently. I wouldn't suggest it if I didn't believe I was ready. And I'm not going to do it right away. I just wanted to give you a heads up, so if you do have the key, you have time to prepare. I was thinking maybe toward the end of the year. That should give me enough time to train and get used to the changes before returning to the village. After a short pause, Jiraiya sighed and nodded. All right. We'll go with your plan. That gives me plenty of time to set things up carefully. Sounds good, I replied with a smile. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. If you found it helpful or entertaining, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, it really helps the channel grow and keeps the content coming. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and keep exploring the anime world with me. Much love. 6 Path Weeb.